African Americans are more likely to be arrested by police and sentenced to longer prison terms for doing the same thing that whites do.
More young black men languish in prison than attend colleges and universities across America.
We now have more African Americans under criminal supervision than all the slaves back in the 1850s.
This semester, I learned that slavery not only continued after the passing of the 13th Amendment, but it persisted in a more brutal way under the name of convict leasing. The 13th Amendment stated that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime, shall exist within the United States. The carefully worded clause, except as punishment for a crime, served as a loophole that allowed slavery to continue in the criminal system where convicts took the place of slaves. In order to maximize the population of convicts inside the prison system after emancipation, laws were created to move the newly freed blacks into prisons where their labor could continue to be exploited. Under a set of laws called Black Codes, blacks were forced to sign labor contracts, which bound them to their former owners and other local planters for an agreed-upon time and very low wage. If a black person refused to sign a contract or broke the contract for any reason, they could be arrested and imprisoned. In addition, if a black person did not have proof of employment at all times, they can be imprisoned under vagrancy laws, which targeted free blacks. Free blacks were also at risk of being imprisoned because of pig laws, which enhanced punishment for small crimes and made small offenses like loitering and petty theft into felonies. Due to these laws, black men made up 90% of the South's prison population by 1886. To support this influx of prisoners, prisons leased the labor of their inmates to local businessmen, planters, and industrialists. Through the system of convict leasing, prisons and states profited economically, but plantation owners and other businessmen who were the lessees of the inmates profited exponentially. Like slaves, convicts were provided with basic survival needs such as food and shelter in exchange for their labor. Whereas slaves costed at least $1,000 to purchase in addition to the lifetime cost of care and maintenance, convicts were leased for about $10 per convict per month. When leased, convicts did the same labor that slaves had done, as well as more intense and dangerous labor that was necessary for Southern industrialization, like coal mining and railroad construction. Convicts, unlike slaves, were not investments to be protected, and labor laws did not apply to prisoners, which meant that lessees had full control of convicts and were able to make them work as much as possible and produce at a higher rate than slaves ever could. Many convicts died under the convict leasing system from injuries that they got while doing dangerous jobs, as well as from malnutrition, disease, torture, or simply from exhaustion. Since convict labor was cheap, businessmen could easily discard and replace prisoners who died under harsh conditions. Through the loophole in the 13th Amendment, which legalized the enslavement of criminals, combined with post-emancipation laws that criminalized almost every aspect of black life, black labor was more widely available and cheaper than it ever had been. Convict leasing created a system that was more lucrative, more sinister, and more brutal than traditional slavery because under convict leasing, black labor and black people became cheap and therefore disposable. Today's prison system may be more racially diverse, but black men are still incarcerated at disproportionately high rates.
Black men account for roughly 6.5% of the U.S. population. They make up 40.2% of the prison population.
While convict leasing was legally outlawed in 1928, prisons and private companies continue to economically benefit from the exploitation of convict labor.
So they can organize. You don't have to pay benefits. They earn, 20 cents, 15 cents an hour. They're always on time for work. And if they're ever disruptive, we put them in isolation.
Right. So it's easy to control that workforce population.
In learning about the history of convict leasing, I have thought about the many ways that American slavery continues to affect the mental health of black people, especially black men. In addition to the mental trauma acquired during incarceration, the label of convict will continue to affect them post-imprisonment because convict remains an indelible marker that prohibits those who have committed a felony from having all the liberties of a free man.